Russ Beckett, Seven Mountains Media author interview for today. This week I got a chance to read the book, The Maps They Gave Us, One Marriage Reimagined by author Wayne Scott. And I have Wayne Scott on the phone right now chatting with us. Wayne, thank you for chatting with us.
Oh, thanks for inviting me, Russell.
This is a very interesting story. Why don't you try to tell people about what this book is about?
This is my partner and I. We've been together for 32 years. And when we first got together, we were what psychologists would call a mixed orientation couple, which basically just means one of us was straight and one of us was not. And the not was me. I identified at that time as a queer or bisexual man. And so the story is really the story of the journey of our marriage and hitting a really rough spot at about the 14-year mark, where we actually decided that because of the differences in our orientations, we were going to divorce. And it kind of chronicles that whole year where, while we thought we were divorcing, we actually, ironically, weirdly found ourselves falling back in love again.
And what made you decide to put this story, this very, very personal story, out to the world?
Good question. So, I had written a number of essays that actually became chapters of the memoir that I had published in different journals here and there, just about the challenges of going on the path from monogamy to non-monogamy and all the interesting, weird things that happened to my spouse and myself. And when I lined them all up together chronologically and I looked at them, I thought, not only do I think I have a book, but I actually think it's a kind of a love story. It's kind of an unlikely love story, and a love story that kind of emerges out of a crucible. And my spouse and I both thought that it was a story worth sharing.
Well, I think especially in this day where the idea of, quote, what is a family is forever changing, to show a family doing something, again, not quite sure what terminology to use, but different, unique, and making it work, I think that's a good message for a lot of people.
Yeah, we call it our creative marital arrangement.
There you go. That is one way to put it. So is there a lesson you hope people get from this book or something they take from it?
I think the big thing for me is that you can make marriage, partnership, any long-term partnership, you can make it whatever you want it to be. There are lots of different ways of being partnered or being married, and including transitioning to a completely different kind of relationship. And maybe that's legally termed divorce, but a divorce is unworthy of the stigma and shame and sense of failure that we put on it. There needs to be more room for relationships, especially long relationships, to evolve and adapt as people change and grow and become different people.
And especially, you talk about in the book, and this is your life story, there are kids involved, so that adds something even new to it.
Yeah, we had, during this period of thinking we were getting divorced, we had 3 school-age children.
So I would imagine by now they're in their 20s and like college age.
They are in their 20s. Nobody's in college at the moment, thank God. But, they're all successful young people. We're a very close family. We all live in Oregon.
So what do the kids think when they read your books and, again, very personal parts of the novel?
It'll be interesting to see what the kids think. The book has not actually arrived in Oregon yet. It's supposed to be here any day. There was a delay. So the kids have not read the book itself. I've told them they don't have to read it because, it's very personal. It's very messy. It's an aspect of their parents' lives that most kids would not know or be exposed to. So I'm going to leave it to their judgment call whether they read the whole thing or not. I thought about putting together an abridged recommendation where, skip these pages, skip this chapter. But, they're adults. And I believe in honesty, and they can make their own decisions about what they want to do.
Was there a part of the writing, like not even for just your kids, but for just anybody in your life or anybody that you thought, maybe I shouldn't include this part?
I thought that I shouldn't include it, like it would harm or injure someone, I didn't include it, right? I think that my father was a difficult character, and he's a big, prominent part of the memoir. And I kind of tell the story of his and my relationship pretty unflinchingly. And, he had passed away 16, 17 years ago. So that it kind of wasn't an issue. I think if he had been alive, I would have had a little bit of a pickle to figure out.
One of my favorite parts of the book, because I think it says a lot, is whenever you meet friends of your father and they just accept you.
Exactly.
I think that's definitely, I think everybody should read it, especially if they're in a situation where they don't quite understand. But people that don't think that most people would accept the choices they've made, that's a very powerful part of the book.
Yeah. And, and part of the reason I wrote it, too, is to pave a path for other people of self-success. And as soon as we name an experience and say that it's okay, it's okay to go down this path. It's okay to try different shapes and forms for relationships. You give permission to other people to be patient. I mean, this took us a long time to figure out. I mean, we were in this period of figuring out, are we going to stay married? And is this creative marital arrangement going to work for like over a year? And it was a painful year. I'm not prescriptive about couples being non-monogamous at all. But for some folks, it might work. It might be a way of holding on to a valuable partnership.
Does anybody have come up to you in the last 15 years of your life and said, tell me how you do it because I think we might want to give it a try?
Yes. Actually, I had an essay published in Modern Love in 2020, which was about, it was called Two Open Marriages in One Small Room. It's actually a podcast, too, that they converted into a podcast. And after that appeared, it wasn't people coming up to me, weirdly. It was people calling my wife. Many women, girlfriends, women in our school community reached out to my wife and said, hey, could we get together for coffee and talk about something? And so it really kind of opened her eyes that there are a lot of people trying to figure out the solution to the dilemma of marriage, figuring out how to make a long-term marriage work. So a lot of those women were actually reaching out because they wanted ideas and advice about how they might do something different with their partners.
I'm not sure what it says that they're more comfortable calling your wife than the person who wrote the story.
Yeah, I mean, they were women. I think women were, maybe because they're women, they were more comfortable reaching out to my spouse as opposed to me. I didn't have too many people reaching out to me, but actually the people who did reach out to me, curious about how you make a non-monogamous arrangement work, were my guy friends. Yeah. So it's kind of weirdly broke into this gender stratified way, yeah.
It is a fascinating book because, again, I think it's way more the world we live in than a lot of people know. It is warts and all. It tells all the stories, and I credit you for even writing it down, for releasing it. And I think it's a book that a lot of people are going to find something they can latch onto in.
Yeah, and people can find information about the book and my other writing on my website, WayneScottWrites.com, if they're interested.
Wayne Scott, thank you for taking the time today to chat with us. Thank you for the book. It was a really great read.
Thank you for the conversation.